Let's get this
Are
party
we?
started.
It is time.
I'm right in the middle of cataract surgery.
Okay,
So-
Mayor.
Hi, welcome all to the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee of the City of San Juan Bautista. This is a hybrid meeting and public participation is by Zoom or in person. This meeting will be conducted pursuant to Government Code 54953E1A in order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus. The Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee is conducting this meeting by Zoom webinar and will be offering alternative options for public participation. You are encouraged to watch the meeting live on Zoom or Facebook. Oops, not Facebook. We have to change that. Okay, so we're calling the meeting to order at 4:02. Pledge of Allegiance. Scott, can you start us off, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Friels.
Here.
Mayor Chair Jordan.
Here.
Commissioner Medeiros.
Here.
Co-Chair Ponce.
Here,
And noting for the record, Commissioner Delgado is absent. We do have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, public comment. Public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee on matters not on this agenda. The law does not permit committee members or extended discussion of any items not on the agenda except under special circumstance. If the committee action is requested, the committee may place the matter on future agenda. Consent items, 3 consent items. All matters listed under the consent agenda may be enacted by one motion. Do we have public comment? Sorry. Norma, do we have public comment?
We do have one member of the public attending today, but I do not see a hand raised. So we'll give this person a moment. Darlene, if you wish to speak at this time, please raise your hand by using the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Chair, there are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And there is nobody in the council chambers. Consent items. All matters listed under the consent agenda may be enacted by one motion authorizing action indicated for those items so designated. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by a member of the committee, a staff member, or a citizen. May I have a motion? Does anybody wish to pull anything on the consent agenda? Scott? David?
No.
Rachel?
no,
Thank you. Do we have any members from the public wishing to pull anything?
We do not have any hands raised.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Thank you very much. May I have a second, please?
Second it.
Thank you, Scott and David. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Friels.
Yes.
Chair Jordan.
Yes.
Commissioner Medeiros.
Yes.
Co-Chair Ponce.
yes,
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Discussion items. Consider the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee status and its future. Done.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the subcommittee. Appreciate your time and dedication today. I'm just going to bring up my agenda real fast on the screen. I didn't do any slides today, so I'll just quickly turn to this. Back on August 1st, 2021, the ad hoc committee had its first meeting, and it was discussed whether or not this would become a standing committee or start as an ad hoc committee. And so now, after a year, the decision was to start as an ad hoc committee. And in discussing this with others, it's I learned myself that it's not specified the definition of an ad hoc committee or the definition of a standing committee in our municipal code. So in cases like that, we would refer to Robert's Rules of Order, and I attached those excerpts for the subcommittee to consider in the agenda. But basically, an ad hoc committee is a subject narrow subject with a term topic, and when the committee is done with its work, then the committee it goes away. That is true. For example, we have an ad hoc committee that we've established to appoint commissioners, and right now we're recruiting for planning commissioner, and that subcommittee will meet and discuss the applicants. It should be working, right? Is it still? Yeah, this mic is really sensitive. Okay. So yeah, me and this mic are friends now. Okay, sorry about that. Hopefully you've read the report, so you all understand what I'm saying anyway. But so the question tonight on the agenda is whether there's two decisions that could be made right now or in the future, and that is to refer this to council as to become a standing committee, or if to declare that the work is done. And in that case, staff would provide an annual report to the city council. And in the staff report, I've identified that this committee has accomplished a lot in the last year. And some of that is evidenced in the next agenda item on the sheriff's contract, the work that we've done. So we've recommended a dedicated deputy, and the city council has approved that, and that has happened. We've made it through a transition with our private security. And that seems to be going pretty well since June 6th. And more importantly, the public safety initiative was refunded another $100,000 this year. And the public safety initiative, I think agreed upon by most and recommended to council, is to get the security camera project rolling forward with the money that we've set aside in our budget. So I think the committee has accomplished a lot, and I'm asking the committee to discuss amongst itself today whether the work of the ad hoc committee has been completed, or whether the committee would like to remain as a standing committee. And if so, then help me out with some justification to bring that forward to the council at the August 16th city council meeting. So with that, Mayor, that's my report, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the options are a standing committee in which it will move forward with each at the end of or until it doesn't any longer, or an ad hoc committee where it will potentially end now. Scott?
Probably should be something maybe every other month or every 3 months. Oh, a quarter. We got to turn this thing up. Yeah, I was just saying something maybe every other month or every 3 months, every quarter. Maybe we should, just in case something new comes up. Like I know Hollister Fire's talking about buying a new fire engine and some other things. Just future. I don't know if we're quite ready to abandon it altogether. It's a pretty dynamic subject.
So standing committee less frequently.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'm in agreement with a standing committee. I think dynamics change and things happen. We're getting potentially a new sheriff in here, fire department. Copperleaf just started a neighborhood watch group. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think there are things, and I think that in light of them starting their own little group, that at some point they should come in here and say, hey, anything to report? What do you need from this city or this group? Alphabetically. David, I'm not used to being second. David, what do you think?
Yeah, let me make sure I thought about this as well. Our standing committee, it sounds like that's the direction we need to go. I personally don't know whether I'd be going in that direction to help out with that committee, but yeah, I think that's the best way to go based on what I've learned so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
I guess the standing committee would work better for what I was thinking, because I was thinking that maybe we could just meet, 3-4 times a year. And my thought was to just kind of keep an eye on the contracts, being that in the past, the contracts with the sheriff and fire and security have kind of been overlooked and were kind of out of date and stuff. And so I thought that if we had a standing committee that would meet to overlook these contracts, I think that, we'd have better communication with the entities that we're contracting with. And I think it would help the city to keep up on the services that they provide or will not provide.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on this?
Anyone who has joined us tonight on Zoom, if you would like to speak on this matter, please use the raise hand button. We have no hands raised at this time, Chair.
Thank you very much. Recommendation to staff then would be to put this on the city council's next agenda to make this a formal standing committee.
Thank you very much. You've made this easy for me and I can follow through with the justification provided. So we'll get this before the council August 15th.
Thank you. Item 2, improving public safety communication with public and staff. Don?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the committee. After the 4th of July, the mayor and I spoke, actually before the 4th of July, that I would take time to meet with the sheriff's office and begin to better coordinate our public safety services. The role of our dedicated deputy, the new role of our private security, all needed to be touched on. And in your packet tonight is an agenda for a meeting that we had on the 6th of July. The Sheriff's Department, Captain Keelan, Lieutenant Corral, and Lieutenant Urena. And this was, I think, a really great meeting. And just to start, the sheriff also was concerned about our communications. He kept talking to me about a single point of contact. And at the same time, they had brought on 2 new lieutenants that I hadn't met yet, and I wasn't clear on what their roles were. So it was long overdue and therefore very productive. And on the agenda, you'll see a number of things that we touch bases on. This is actually a really exciting time, I think, to be part of our public safety because it is changing. So we discussed the single point of contact, but for a variety of things. Policy and budget and emergencies, that's mostly the city manager. Operations is more at the ground level, obviously. With the dedicated deputy and our service providers. Advancing the planning and special events is something that the assistant city manager takes charge of, making sure that those regular meetings are attended and we get feedback. So, and also to me, it was real important to discuss the definition of enforcement, because as I mentioned in the staff report, it is the job of the city manager to enforce all the laws of the city. And that can be a daunting task without help. And then below I have the sheriff office contract that talks about enforcing municipal codes of the city for which the sheriff services are provided. And so does the sheriff enforce the city's municipal code, and has the interpretation under municipal codes of the city changed now with our dedicated deputy? Because our dedicated deputy has been able to spend more time on, I believe, the community's priorities. Of course, safety is the #1 priority, but when we look at commercial truck enforcement and we look at parking and we look at traffic safety and stop signs and compliance with that, we're finding now that he's able to write a lot more traffic enforcement citations and focus more on these issues. So at the same time, code enforcement is writing 2 to 3 commercial truck citations per weekend. And now Kismet, our private security, is actually writing parking tickets. So we have as many as 3 different agencies writing parking tickets in our city now. So it should be the best parking enforcement we ever have. We need to improve our parking laws, which hasn't been done yet. I spoke to the city attorney about that today, changing our municipal codes to make for better enforcement, especially with abandoned vehicles. The sheriff explained to me in this meeting that their second concern is having to remove reserve officers from access to their database. So the state Department of Justice has a database, the California Local Enforcement Information CLEPS transmission system. I think it is. I have it in the staff report. CLEPS is the acronym that's used in the business, and that's for running license plates. That's so that the deputies, reserve or otherwise in the past, could run license plates and know if a car is stolen, find out, identify the owner, etc. And that's a critical piece to traffic and to parking enforcement. And it's really hard to tow a car without having that knowledge. And so to some extent, the code enforcement officer has lost their ability to tow a vehicle. So we have an example of one on 3rd Street now where we've written 2 or 3 citations and requested the sheriff to tow it for us. In order to tow a car, you need to have a list of towing companies. You need to have an impoundment phone number and information, and you need to have forms for people to access here at City Hall. So it's a whole system the city would have to embark on to create an abandoned vehicle towing program. And without the code enforcement officer, reserve sheriff deputies' ability to do that, it leaves it to the sheriff, which means we're not going to get near the enforcement we've had in the past. And I think you may recall that the code enforcement officer described how the laws, we don't have a simple to implement abandoned vehicle, and we've been actually towing cars based on 72-hour parking violations. So that's what the green tags are that he puts on the cars and warns people of violations. But he used to be able to follow that with a tow, and that just hasn't been as effective in the past few months. So this is all a change in direction from the sheriff that was pretty much just handed to us. And so I've tried to reach out to the Department of Justice to see if it's possible for the city to have its own access to the CLEPS program so that we could begin to start this up again. And then as we were talking with the sheriff, they started thinking of our second deputy, and one of their biggest problems is, so the first concern was single point of contact. The third concern was access to the databases for both report writing and investigations and the CLEPS program. That's cut off now. And then thirdly is their ability to recruit. He described a nationwide and a statewide problem recruiting new officers for any law enforcement, but especially chronic for our rural community. He's got a number of vacancies that he's been unable to fill. And so our request for a second deputy would fall in behind those vacancies that he's already trying to fill. And I recall it being 4 or 5 vacancies that they're filling. And if they get new trainees in, then they have to go through 6 months of the post training and be a cadet for a while. And anyway, it's a complicated process. And so it might take until the first of the year to fill the position. I'll take a resolution to the council as we did, and we'll make that request formal so we can get the Board of Supervisors on board and add that position to their roster. So that's another to do from this meeting today for August 16th. But having said that, we were talking about other options, and it dawned on the sheriff's deputy, the lieutenant and the captain, while we were talking. There's something called an MSO, which is a non-sworn officer that can do traffic enforcement and parking enforcement and these commercial vehicle enforcement for us. Can tow vehicles. And they wondered if we'd be interested in entertaining a part-time assignment for an MSO, because this is a civilian position that they can fill a lot faster than a second deputy. They thought that might be more effective for us in light of the changes that they've been making with reserve officers. So that's something that we want to explore in more detail and get costs together and so forth. But that was a really positive, creative outcome of our meeting. It was starting to sound like it's all doom and gloom. Like they came without donuts to give me a bunch of bad news. And then And so this is a positive outcome, I think, if we can investigate this other approach to our enforcement. So I spelled that out in the staff report, and trying to see what else. With Etheric coming on board, they are accessing their dark fiber through the windmill market. And I have not reached out directly to the new IT person who started in January at the sheriff, but wasn't invited to. And this is critical, that their office have the 100 megabytes technology that Etheric has to offer, because that'll help us establish our camera and security system. And that IT person will help me work with the sheriff's office to make the best use out of that data. We need to have these systems in place before we can go out and start spending money on the security system, just so we know how to manage it and use it when we get it. And I was hearing from someone who'd been in the city for a number of years and sharing with me that 3 city managers ago, they came into the same question. I guess Roger Grimsley was asking that same question, how are we going to manage the data? So I need to get those ducks in a row and meet with their IT person. But that's a good opportunity that's around the corner. And then the second dedicated deputy. So I've already touched on that, and there's a lot to digest from the meeting and the meeting minutes. And the sheriff did read these. I wanted to just pause and look at the back few pages where I printed the outline for the city's municipal code, because this is really where it comes push to shove for me. As I look through the muni code and I look at things like weed abatement is enforced by the fire marshal. Animal regulation is investigated as much as we can with code enforcement right now. Property maintenance is code enforcement. Wastewater regulations, that's pretty much the city manager's job. Food establishments is in the city code, but enforced mostly by environmental health, the county. Card rooms is something where the sheriff's office would approve licenses for card rooms, but who would actually enforce them? We don't have any that I'm aware of. So card rooms and bingo games. There's a number of things on here that the sheriff's just not going to touch, and that the city manager is responsible for. So the weight limitations is obviously commercial vehicles, stopping, standing, and parking. Looking at Chapter 7, advertising displays adjacent to landscape freeways. I mean, I don't think the sheriff's going to enforce that one, and our city engineer is enforcing encroachments. So enforcement is complicated as you look at our municipal code, and we're just starting to delve into it now with the sheriff, so that we all have a good understanding clearly of what is and what isn't the sheriff's job, and where the city manager and the rest of the city staff need to pick up the slack. So just wanted to say that was my main purpose of this meeting with the sheriff, and we made some good progress. So with that, I hope I've stimulated some thoughts and discussion. Mayor, members of the committee.
Thank you very much. I got to attend part of that meeting. Unfortunately, the sheriff was a little late due to an accident or something. I can't remember why. But yeah, it was a good meeting from where I sat. Scott, questions, comments, concerns on any of this?
Yeah, just a few questions and a comment. So Don, right now, if there is an abandoned car, let's say on Anzar Road, the sheriff's department has the ability to remove it. And since we contracted the sheriff's department, I don't understand why they're not have the ability to remove a abandoned vehicle within the contract. So did the sheriff tell you they don't deal with abandoned vehicles at all?
Well, their recommendation was to have a non-sworn civilian staff of this MSO position work with the tow companies and make that happen. And so that's why I think the thought came, maybe we could share an MSO with the city and have that position here at the city to help us enforce.
We can't hear.
I'm sorry, I don't know, I should just switch microphones.
No, you have to keep it close to your face.
Mm-hmm.
So the sheriff enforces abandoned vehicles in the county apparently with non-sworn officers, with MSOs. They serve them multiple service officers, I think they're called.
Multiple service.
So-
I was going to say, what's MSO? Because I wrote down N as in non-sworn, NSO, non-sworn officer, but what is it?
I'll find that for you. Hold on.
Another acronym.
The
Yeah,
S-
Another acronym, yeah, safety acronyms. are-
Okay, I was just thought that was odd. I would have think that they had the ability to do that. I don't know that, I'm not really happy with their answer on that one. Kept saying reserve deputy. Did you just mean deputy sheriffs, not reserve officers? Because we have a full-time permanent deputy. He's not a reserve, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Officer Deputy Miller is a
He's a permanent. Yeah,
he's
he's not.
a
Yeah.
he is a deputy sheriff.
Right.
The reserve officer was what Rich was at one point
At one point,
until
yeah.
the sheriff's department got rid of that designation.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay. Since they are short, well, I assume they're short staffed. I mean, everybody's short staffed, but be curious to see how much overtime they're cranking out right now. I'm sure there's a bunch, and why can't we get with the sheriff and say, hey, for some of those gap days we have, can we approve one of your guys to come over on overtime, since we're not going to be spending the monthly fee. I mean, if it's 3 or 4 days a month, and then maybe one of these, one of the deputies will have a chance to get some overtime. Something tells me they're already working a bunch of overtime. This isn't unique to San Benito County. This is a nationwide issue we're having, and it's not just law enforcement. It's also paramedics and firefighters. 2 years ago, almost 4,000 paramedics were certified in California. This year, 300. So nobody wants to do these jobs anymore. Towns like Stockton and Bangor, Maine, and they're blacking stations out. Stockton blanked out 5 fire stations a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
South Santa Clara County, where I used to work, there's numerous times when their paramedics are working 15 to 20 days straight, if not longer. The medics on the engine. So this isn't I understand. I understand not having enough deputies to be able to cover the county, and there's no buts there. That's just the fact of the matter is. So that would be nice if we can get that. Now that everybody knows that we've approved a second deputy, get that information out there. We approved it, but there's nobody to fill the spot.
Okay. Okay.
That, to me, that's just because we hear a lot of questions. When's the second deputy? Well, there is no second deputy right now. And I know that this is a skeleton sheriff's department. I mean, I bet there's only two deputies on right now, if maybe 3. I mean, we're almost as bad as like Alpine County when I think they only have 1 deputy and a sheriff right now. So that's just the knowledge that I've got from the folks that I still, keep in contact with, that I used to work with. So I still don't understand why we can't get cars towed. This just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. A deputy sheriff should be just like any other. I mean, if a deputy sheriff can write a parking ticket or write a speeding ticket, I don't understand why a deputy sheriff can't write a tow ticket. And I get we need tow companies lined out, but they have a list.
Right. Right.
And we do have I don't know, it's not a terrible problem, abandoned vehicles, but we do have a bunch of junk cars around town. And you can tell where they are because the street sweeper can't get through, So, okay, that's about all I got. Thanks.
That's the number one text I get is abandoned vehicles. Certain people in town like to share with me where they are. And
I think if we have a list, we should just be able to hand it over to them and say, can you take care of this,
Good on it.
please?
so that'll be on the next agenda, the August 3rd meeting.
August 3rd. Who's August 3rd meeting? Oh,
With the
you're
sheriff.
sorry, this big agenda. Sorry, my bad. Not following. Okay, couple of questions. So, our code enforcement officer is no longer a reserved officer and can no longer perform the duties that he was doing as a reserve deputy. He is just a code enforcement officer, and I don't mean that in a bad light. I just mean that he no longer has those sheriff resources.
Correct.
Okay.
But we never hired him as a reserve deputy.
Correct.
We
Yet
hired
he
him
was
as a-
doing those job descriptions. So I'm just making a clarification that he's working solely as a code enforcement officer and not as a reserve deputy, and can no longer use that.
Well, he's still writing citations as he can. So like as I said, he's writing commercial vehicle citations.
Right. And those are allowed by the sheriff's department or our muni code, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's why private security is doing it as well.
Right. Yeah. We've been working on that for
Yeah,
a while
I
now.
thought everybody knew he wasn't a reserve deputy sheriff.
No.
Well, that
Well, one of the things, one of the most recent examples of the good work from our code enforcement officer is the coordination of the 4th of July response. That was all on his back to find the vendor with the right price to secure the equipment that we needed for that weekend. And he was able to do that and negotiate a good price and also coordinate the efforts of the private security at the same time. I was really impressed. And his willingness to work the hours that were necessary and flex his hours and make the schedule fit. So that's the next item on the agenda. So you can tell me
Yeah.
if it was that good of a job or not. But
Well, yeah, he did that last year as well. Worked with the security company, but we'll get to that in the next in the next discussion. So we still have Deputy Miller on the days that he comes, and that he's a dedicated deputy here. And on his off days, we have another deputy sheriff who drives through on occasion just to have coverage over here, just to have a presence, I should say, over here, correct? That
as
you are
they're-
aware of
as
at this
they're-
time?
as they're able, right?
Right, yeah. And good golly, on the Aromas fire, I think they had every firefighter from far and wide, and every deputy and every animal control deputy or officer here at the high school.
High school.
It was an amazing group. Sorry for that quick shout out. So not a whole lot of staff, and when there's an emergency, they all pile on, which I think is great. So while that other officer is driving through, can he not take care of abandoned vehicles? Question for the sheriff, not for you.
I think the nature of abandoned vehicles and waiting for the tow truck and that whole thing is time consuming is the problem.
Great point. Thank you for that. Yeah. You're right.
And if they get called out in the middle and they're waiting for a truck, it's like,
Right.
I think it's just cumbersome for that reason. That's
Yep.
why they leave it to the non-sworn.
Okay, I get that. And for having a dedicated deputy here, if at the end of every evening they're looking at the reports from Kismet and they go, oh, there's 5 abandoned vehicles just on 3rd Street.
Uh-huh.
Can they not go call, go down the list, and since Deputy Miller is here anyway.
Well, that gets back to our actual parking ordinance that needs to be revised. 'Cause we've been
Understood.
Going on the 72-hour limit, so it takes a green tag first, the warning. And Rich has shared with me, code enforcement has shared with me in the past that the majority of the cars that he puts a green tag on get moved. There's a Mercedes-Benz just down the street here that's under a car cover, and the kids are working on it, so they will roll it up and back to avoid getting the tow ticket. So it tends to be an extra car for someone. We have a 68 Impala over on near 3rd Street that is an extra car. And it's not their commuter car, it's not their work car. So there it is on the street. So he has to move it, and we get complaints about it all the time. So
So moving it from one parking space to another is not not an issue. If it's just like city, living in a big city where you have to by 10 p.m. move your car
Uh-huh.
and then you can move it back at 5 a.m. or whatever the times are. So if they can, if you want to park on the street, great, but adhere to the rules and move it to another space tomorrow, move it back to the other space today.
It just sounds like we're distributing maybe 100 green slips for every car we actually tow.
Right,
It's
but
a game.
what's the definition of an abandoned vehicle, I guess is my big question.
I'm not an expert at this, but it also has to do with registration and other things.
So I get that. So if somebody's registration is expired, get rid of it.
So
And we have a lot of those.
I toured the city with code enforcement last week. And I pointed to cars and I said, what's the deal? What's the deal? And it had a blue sticker and I knew that wasn't a current year. And so just trying to bring it to his attention.
Okay.
So awareness, I think sometimes we see the same things every day and
Uh-huh.
we don't realize that they need to be fixed.
Okay.
Not make excuses, but I think that's human nature.
Okay. Thank you. David? Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, I go along with just about everything that's going on right now between all of us, what we're talking about. I'm looking forward to see how all that evolves eventually. But again, my focus, would be traffic management, parking. People are walking all hours of the day and night. What about their safety and what have you? And what about crime prevention, that kind of a thing? Are we also going to get the public involved? Neighborhood watches and what have you. What do we do to fill in the gaps? Is there something that we need to work on that with the sheriff department and what have you? And that's pretty much it. It's almost like, let's see what happens based on what we can experience from here on out. It looks like we have certain things set up to do the right thing for the city. We're a lot ahead and moving forward with what I believe what has been best for us now as compared to what we've had in the past. So let's see where we can take that. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Creek Bridge has a neighborhood watch. Does Rancho Vista?
Informally, if you talk to our city treasurer, there's at least 2 mayors in Rancho Vista right now.
One mayor will say it's the other mayor.
3 of them. I'll include Mayor Jordan.
When I go to them, they're pretty scary. You learn a lot of things that you don't think is happening.
Yeah, especially on the edge of town there. Yeah,
So theirs is more informal.
correct. And I learned today, I didn't realize this over the weekend when I saw emails go back and forth, that Lieutenant Corral is actually involved in forming that neighborhood watch group. I was unaware that the sheriff was actually involved. One of the neighbors had called me to ask for permission to post signs. And it's like, where did you get this sign? Like, it's Ace Hardware or something. But it's official. It's being formed through Lieutenant Corral in the sheriff's office. So
I'll be darned.
following the standards. I just was unaware of that.
Bypass the city altogether on that
Yeah,
one.
on that one, yeah.
Okay. Well
Not to
done.
mention animal control.
Or Copperleaf. Sorry, Creek Bridge. Sorry, Copperleaf.
Properly, right.
I beg to differ on that one.
And I agree with Mr. Maderos. Animal regulation is a place where we're fairly vulnerable. I researched into that. I reported to the committee a couple months ago, or maybe before the holidays, but it's really difficult. So I did budget for some kennels so we could hold animals over the weekend or until we can get to the shelter on Monday morning. But that's about all I could do with it. Our vehicle is capable of transporting animals, so that's good. We are buying some hardware to make it easier to capture a vicious dog, for example, with a pole and a sling on the end of it, just to protect the officers. But that's all we can do right now. I can't. We would have to hire a full-time position in order to get help from Hollister. That's basically where I stopped talking to them. they're happy to receive animals and they're happy to help people reclaim animals. But if we wanted a full-time animal control officer, if we wanted animal control officer help, we'd have to buy 40 hours a week.
Is it the city of Hollister or is it San Benito County?
No, City of Hollister PD.
They were in green or khaki or whatever.
It's the city of Hollister.
Okay, they have 6 officers. I thought they had 1 or 2.
It's a pretty big facility, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, they were all out there. Thank you, David. Rachel?
Yeah, on this MSO, whatever it is, that the sheriff, I guess, suggested we hire. I just see that as another expense, and you know, we're just kind of nickel and dime ourselves into security, and I really don't like that. And on the page of Title V, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, I want clarification. Is that a list of the things that the sheriff will service us with or will not?
It varies, and some of it is the fire department, and some of it is county environmental health. So it varies. Most of this does not fall under the sheriff's purview.
Okay, I have a question on 523, public intoxication. Okay, who takes care of that? You know, I'm thinking, okay, I'm at a restaurant and somebody gets you know, out of hand and stuff. The restaurant, I'm sure, will try and handle it, but if they can't, who are they supposed to call? And how do they know who they're supposed to call? If so
that's,
much is up in the air.
well, that particular one has also got a civil code that the sheriff can enforce. The public intoxication is also drunken in public, and so they have the authority to enforce that and generally do in our city.
So how are we going to be able to inform the public of who does what and who will take care of what? You know,
Well,
I'm seeing somebody having a situation and naturally calls the sheriff, and the sheriff will say, well, we don't handle that.
Well, it should go to 911, and that's what they get paid to do. And we learned last meeting that when they have the right information, that they can make the right referrals. The 911 is screening calls of that nature.
911. Our public should always call 911. And are you referring to the shots fired up on the hill?
Not necessarily. I'm
Okay.
just looking at this list and you know, I'm trying to figure out who will do what. And it's just kind of, I don't know, I guess it was just a little surprising.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ms. Ponce. That was the point of presenting it. And I did share with the city council today a 24-hour non-emergency number that they can use, and that's the code enforcement officer's cell phone. And they always know they can call me as well. So if there's a question, a gray area that comes up when the city hall is not open and I'm not in the yard, that we can work on that together and respond. So I think having a secondary number was recommended by another council member. Can I call the private security myself? And some of us do, and some of us did during 4th of July. They were calling the private security, and we had some communication problems there that we need to work on. So that's the way it's structured right now. That's why he's working on weekends and is not working so much when I'm here in the office. So that there is somebody here that can answer a call.
Okay, good, thank you.
I thought the private security was observe and report.
And we authorize parking citations and administrative citations for fireworks and things.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure why their number is given out. I don't understand that.
It's not their number. I think we had a resident, share with us last week that they looked it up.
Wow, call 911. Please call 911. Only because they're an observe and report. I mean, I get the idea of parking citations, but I don't know. They're not trained for, I don't know. I think that's kind of scary. Observe and report.
That's where our risk management, our liability insurance carrier wants them as well.
Okay. 911 people, 911.
Excuse me, what was
ahead,
that
Rachel.
Don said? I didn't hear that.
That's where our liability insurance carrier wants our private security to be the observe and report, right?
Okay.
And well, I would hope people, okay, I would hope people, if their neighbors using a leaf blower at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning, I would hope they don't call 911.
Absolutely.
But I've been out to fix garbage disposals in my career, so it happens. But I'm still curious, why would somebody complain about a 68 Impala? and if the guy needs me to honestly to take it off his hands, if it's a
nuisance.
I walk by it every time.
You know which one I'm talking
Yeah, I
about.
do.
Well, I think that's a neighborhood dispute, honestly.
Well, and that's, when I worked up at Aromas Fire, we used to get those all the time. People from the Bay Area would move into the Aromas area and they would complain about their neighbor. And it's like, did you even look at the house, the house you're buying before? But anyway, we would always suggest, hey, did you ever just maybe grab a 6-pack of beer and walk over and talk to your neighbor? I mean, that's what we do in these rural communities. We just, call 911 or some type of judge to deal with it. It gets, and I think it's going to get even worse, but all right, thanks.
I'm just thinking about this. What I hear is that to call 911 for everything. I was always under the impression that calling 911 was just for a dire emergency.
No, not necessarily. Personally, I had a deer commit suicide in front of my car
Uh-oh.
in my rural neighborhood. I mean, it looked at me and I looked at it and I slowed down and it turned away from the road and then it turned around and hopped right in front of me. And I didn't know what to do. So I called 911 and they called animal control to come get the dead deer off the side of the road. And so that's just an example. My car was fine. I was safe. Nobody else was hurt. So just an example of who do I call in that case.
When in doubt. Thank you. Do we have any public comment? I'm sorry, Rachel, are you finished?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about 911. I guess I haven't had to use it that much, so that's why I'm not aware of it. Will do everything. It'll service everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody from your public Zoom?
The Zoom world.
The Zoom world?
For those in attendance today, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of the screen. And we do not have any hands raised at this time, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public comment from the council chambers. We have none. Moving along. Discussion item 4C, fireworks. None? Sorry, is it okay if I'm so casual during these meetings?
Norma will put you in line if
Thank you, Norma.
That's right.
Call me Leslie.
When this matter came forward to the city council, I simply didn't have enough time to put all the information together. And so I wanted a second bite at the apple, if you will. I frankly did a pretty sloppy job on my first report and was called on it. So I appreciate that. The fact that so I attached the council's report, and much of that are the reports from private security. because we receive a report from every officer who's working at the end of their shift. So you can see we had a lot of support out there, because there's probably about 20 pages in your packet tonight that are that. But to clarify some issues that came up during the city council meeting in July, the message boards were incorrectly stated. The hours of fireworks approved for use was not 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., but rather noon until 10 p.m. The good news is they pretty much ended around 10 p.m. And enforcement in 2021 included 3 private security patrol officers, not 2. So there was an increase, but it was not double. And thank you for pointing that out, members of the public. And then there was one comment that I was really interested to know. We had one public comment at city council that thought that there were fireworks everywhere, just like usual, and that if we only wrote 2 citations, that $8,000 was just a waste of city money. And I really felt like we were effective, that there were not fireworks everywhere. That's the report I got from our own fire department. They had 0 calls for service that night. They thought it was pretty smooth through the whole holiday. And we're pretty pleased with it, in talking with the chief who works next to me here at City Hall. And so I would appreciate more feedback on that perception in particular. And then the staff had one question, and that was allowing this window of time for the use of fireworks on the 4th of July. It felt like a relief valve. It felt like the innocent family in Copperleaf who didn't see the message boards, right or wrong, didn't know that all the fireworks they just bought were not allowed. So it gave them a chance to put them away and to bring them back out on the 4th of July, and that's what happened. So I don't know. I have cited examples from the city of Glendora and some other cities who've struggled with this, and that was the solution they came up with, and I thought it worked fairly well for us. But I may be wrong. All I had was a camera's view of the night, so I'm looking for more feedback. And that's because we've asked the city attorney to work on an ordinance that bans the use and the sale of fireworks in our city altogether. And that's his direction, and I hope he brings that back soon. I don't know if he'll make it by August 16th. I was talking to him today. It may have to wait until September, but it is in draft form. So that was the point of sharing this information with the Public Safety Committee. Just a recap of what the weekend's efforts were, and to share the City Council report and feedback we got at the July 19th meeting. So that's why I brought this forward, Mayor, and I'm happy to receive more feedback.
Thank you very much. Scott?
Okay, here's a good question. The comment, this comment number 3 about why'd we spend the money. It was a public comment at a city council meeting. I'm not supposed to basically tit for tat on something like that during the meeting, but is it okay if I speak about it?
That's why I put it in the staff report, so you could tit for tat on it.
Okay. I thought that was, I couldn't believe that somebody said that. That's like saying, we haven't arrested anybody in 6 months. Why should we have a police officer? Or we haven't used the water in the fire engine in a year. Why should we put water in it? It was just one of those things where we were damned if we did and damned if we didn't, I think, with this person. So I just thought that was an odd statement.
Closer.
No, we turn these things up because I don't want to breathe all over whatever somebody else has already breathed on. I like the idea. I love fireworks. I like fireworks, not the what was going on in my neighborhood. It sounded like, Kiev, for crying out loud. But I don't mind a family sitting in their driveway with, legal fireworks, some fountains and some, they used to be called Piccolo Pete's, but I don't think they do those anymore. Anything, to me, I didn't have any problem with it. And I argued for it this year. I did vote yes on banning them because I was getting something out of it. So I'll be perfectly honest with you. But I would love, I don't know if this is a done deal yet. We're still, it's our nation's birthday, and we celebrate it with fireworks. Some people celebrate it a little more vigorous than others, but and the illegal stuff is illegal. We're not going to stop the illegal stuff. I mean, I think Fresno had like 6 structure fires. I was listening to their news right after 4th. I mean, it was brutal on Fresno. The stuff pours across the border. We can't. I mean, it's near to impossible to stop it. The illegal stuff. But even though we did have enforcement, I mean, there was still stuff going off everywhere. So I don't, like I said before, I don't have a problem with the legal fireworks. It's just, of course, the illegal stuff. And I know there's a big confusion with the difference. What's the difference? Well, this is really easy. The illegal stuff goes boom and it flies up in the air. The illegal stuff, the legal stuff does not leave the ground and does not blow up. That's pretty much in a nutshell, layman's terms. So I don't know. Maybe we can look at this. Maybe it's a good thing he doesn't have that code written already. So we can still kind of chew it over.
Thank you. In this statement, on the discussion about fireworks, the meeting date July 29th, the city council meeting, in the discussion, it says one was the teen vandal identified. Did we have vandalism?
So on Sunday night, code enforcement came across 7 individuals, all under age 18, dressed in black with ski masks in Veruti Park. And one of these gentlemen was easily identifiable because of his height and his bicycle that he rode. And so he gave a stern warning to this group. You know, we're going to be out here, and these are the rules. And the very next day, at I'm not sure what corner of 3rd Street, this not so tall individual on the bike was lighting off fireworks and got a $1,000 ticket.
Okay, but no vandalism.
No, none that I'm aware of.
Oh, okay.
Not this year. Not like the cherry bombs and the portable restrooms, that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay. Because I didn't hear about any of that, and it says it here, and I didn't pick it up before. There was one fire. I'd have to look back at my phone to see where it was. I spoke with Charlie, the fire marshal, the 19th, the night of the 19th. And he looked it up and sent me 1 or 2 incidences. So there were, and I can show you where they were after this, so I can look them up. Were there any citations issued prior to 6 p.m. on the 4th? Are you aware?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Only because of that.
So I provided in the staff report, text reports that I was getting from code enforcement, and his reports to me were on Friday and Saturday, there were no fireworks. There was one issue out in the Copperleaf neighborhood, and once the owner became aware of the rules, he obeyed. So.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because the message board said one thing and the council said another. And I wasn't sure how we were going to pursue that. Yeah, I guess there's lots more conversation we need to have about safe and sane and illegals. I'm not sure where anybody was on the 4th of July, but they were going off all night long into the wee hours of the morning by me. It'd be one big one and then it would stop, and then it'd be another big one and then it would stop. Yeah, it was crazy. David, questions, comments, concerns?
Not really, but just to report back that they're getting bigger.
Well, they
Not
are.
not so much as the after effect with all the sparks and stuff like that, but the sound itself and the percussions of it. Boy, they were pretty big this time, and it didn't sound like it came from next door. So, But some of the fireworks that went up, I could see over into the valley. Was quite enjoying to watch it, but I felt this year was a little bit better than, let's say, most years. So something's happening all around. So whatever work we're doing there, I think some of it is paying off. So other than that, I kind of go along with everybody else, and what we need to do further is to stay on top of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rachel?
I think that having the fireworks sale and then saying that fireworks are illegal is, and granted, we're talking about two different kinds of fireworks, I think is giving a mixed message. And I think that, you know, if the city is planning to ban sales and, you know, lighting, I think will be helpful. So that way people aren't confused. And you know, I don't know what the answer is to the illegal fireworks that go on before and after the 4th of July. You know, it's kind of scary that they are pretty noisy and all, but I think that if we kind of, you know, being that the environment is so dry, I think we have to just be a little bit more strict on not selling and not allowing fireworks, period. Maybe, you know, for a couple of years, I don't know, but I think that it's confusing to people to have a stand and then saying you can't light fireworks, and you know, a lot of people don't realize or care of the difference. And so I think we need to be a little bit, you know, it might be unpopular, but I think we need to be, you know, strict on it just for the protection of us all. That's it.
Thank you very much. Norma, do we have anybody from Zoom public?
So the person who's joined us today on Zoom, if you would like to speak, please use the raise hand button, bottom of your screen. We have no hands raised at this time, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comment from the public in the council chambers? No comments. Thank you very much. (4D) proposed weed abatement program. Don?
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed weed abatement program was presented by subcommittee member David Medeiros, as he described in an email to me and in these 4 slides, which I can share with the council real quick here. His frustration in finding a contractor to knock down the weeds on his property. And I had a chance to share his slides with the fire department, and I think David's whole idea here is to have a centralized system that would make it easier for our residents. And David, I'll pull up your slides real quick and let you just.
I wish you wouldn't bring up the slides because I've done more work on them.
Oh,
I've updated them, and I don't want to give anybody else the wrong impression.
Okay.
Not that I've got anything sneaky going on the new version, but if I can talk to it.
Sure, please help yourself.
Sure. But anyway, yeah, I was for years, you might say, before I even thought about the subject of weed abatement program for the city and that, what have you. And by the way, they do have one. It's nothing new that I'm trying to present here. But anyway, when I brought it up, it was after a time of frustration I was going through, just trying to put a stop to the people who were always helping me. And I mean, they would come by and they would bring their tractor and stuff like that. And out of the kindness of their heart, you know, for years. And years before that, I had somebody taking care of our property. Well, things have changed since then. In the last couple of years, it's been more difficult to find people just to come and do the work, and just to come here on a fixed reason, a private reason and stuff like that. It's more expensive because now they have to kind of go out of way of their normal circuit that they normally work. And doing a little research on it over the last couple of years, I found out that these people are hard to get a hold of. But if you know how they work as far as creating jobs for themselves so they can stay in business, which I did over this last year. And then I looked at the abatement program that we have here in San Juan Bautista. I think some of the ideas I would like to share with the city might help us work, because of to avoid the frustrations I went through. Not only that, but also to make it clear to everybody that I'm not trying to get out of doing my own work or doing my own lawns and what have you, but trying to find ways to make things cheaper for everybody when it comes to weed abatement, what have you. That being said, I did put a program together, kind of piggyback on what's going on right now. But if the abatement program is working right now, I find it a little difficult that there's some gaps that we need to take care of. Because just in my local area, you know, I share some property, or I have property in size with other property owners in my area that have larger areas that need to be taken care of. We need much more heavy equipment. And over the years, that's hard to bring that stuff in here because the expense to do that. But to make a long story short, is the fact that the more I look into it, I'd like to share with the city. Maybe we can work together and make it a little easier for a abatement program. And usually an abatement program that we have right now, it's geared so that, you know, if it gets out of control, then all these violations might come up. And my idea is to not worry about the violations, but to put a program in place that makes sure that we don't have to worry about violations, because maybe it's too late or things are not getting done the way they're supposed to be. And I stand as a witness as things not getting done because how frustrating I've been going through. But anyway, I share that plan with the city. I'm going to give them another version of that program. Anyone who wants to see it, I'd be happy to send it to them. It's only got about 4 or 5 slides that I put together, and that's it. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Scott?
No, we do. We have had a weed abatement program here for quite some time, haven't we, Don? We do.
Yes, and we hear the fire marshal report on it, because there's deadlines and there's fines and there's the whole program that Chief Bodea shares with us. And I did have a chance to talk to him, and he saw a chance, an opportunity, as David suggests, but rather improving the system that the Hollister Fire Department uses now versus starting a new program for just San Juan. So I was curious to know what David would think about that, if that was a possible answer or not. I don't know if you can hear me. Sorry.
I thought that
I can barely hear you. Yes, I've tried to.
I thought in the municipal code, our city municipal code, we do have a weed abatement.
We do.
Because I'm enforcing it. Okay.
Yeah, if in my presentation or in my program, I itemize all those things as far as the municipal code and what have you. So it's all part of the package that I'll be sending to the city as far as an update to the last version I sent over.
Okay.
And the thing is, going to the city, they were very helpful. I got with the maintenance group, and they gave me some names. I got with the fire marshal, San Benito County Fire Marshal, Charlie, and their office was extremely helpful. So I've got 2 contractors out there that they know that where my property is at, what needs to be done. And when they're in the area, they know to either give me a call or just show up. So that's what I got going right now. And I'd like to see that happen for everybody else as well. Thank you.
So are you talking about putting a list together of contractors?
No, I'm just saying the city, they have to do an assessment, do they not? Because, as far as weed abatement goes, every year or once a month or twice a year, I don't know. Whatever that assessment has to be. And a lot of times it's, it's a notification process and what have you. I just find that the way things have been in the past, I need to get my property abated. And if you do have a program, it was foreign to me. So I went out on myself to get these things going. And based on that information, I just want to share it with the city and see if that's going to be helpful for future programs.
Thank you, David. As far as the word program goes, I just want to be clear that the program is administered solely by Chief Badea, and what we got from Public Works, and I think I may have even offered this contractor, is oftentimes when we need a service, we have a list of contractors we can go to. So happy to share that list with the public. And I think it was the same company that maintains our maintenance districts, Smith and Enright.
Right.
So that was kind of a no-brainer. We can't favor one over another. We have to offer a list, as we do with our community health security, for example. You have a list to choose from. And the property owner, it still falls on the property owner. It's still the property owner's responsibility. So the law's in place, but that's the program that's behind it. It encourages the property owner to resolve. And I resolve mine every year in good poison luck at the same time. But
Okay, yeah, I knew there was a municipal code on it. I've enforced it in the past, and I just wanted to make sure it was still there. Yeah, okay, I guess I got confused. I thought somehow our municipal code on weed abatement went away. Okay, well, sorry, but I've been a little bit, yeah. Okay, I'm a little, well, anyway. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
So on the weed abatement there's some properties in town that definitely need to cut their weeds, and they seem to be the same ones all the time. What can the city do about that? And I have some comments on the security reports. If we can go back to that later, it's all right if we can't, but I wanted to comment on that. That's my question and my request.
we could meet on those. Rachel, well, I'd be happy to set up a meeting. We could go through those with you.
Right, it's not on the agenda, so we can't talk about it. The reports themselves are not on the agenda. What was on the agenda was the 4th of July and security. So
those are the ones. Well, sorry.
No.
You mean I can't comment on all these pages that were sent to us?
Only if it pertains to the 4th of July and fireworks.
It does.
Yeah, we have already passed it too. Okay, go, and you were saying with weed abatement, that there are still several houses that have, that there could be issue with.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So Don, I know we have a time set up for the fire marshal to come out and do that. Is it a one and done, or and I believe the fire marshal said something about when the engines are driving around that they could look at that as well. Do we get any reports from them, and has that been brought up to them again? So hey, while you're out and about, sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. So typically we announce that the inspections will begin to occur in April. And then we have a hearing where the fire marshal comes back and says these, I think it was 3 to 4 properties this year are not in compliance, and we're going to issue citations. And if necessary, cut the weeds with our own contractor and follow up with a bill. So there's this two-step process that the fire marshal does every year. We have property change hands, like the property at 70 Muckalemme. The owner hadn't been through fire season before, so they were a little late getting out there, but they got out there to the satisfaction of the law and got it done. So there's some education that occurs every year. But the whole idea is to educate and educate in April and enforce in May. And Memorial Day is generally the cutoff. You got to have the weeds cut by then.
And if they continue to grow,
Then we have the right to cut them, I believe. We have the right to enter the property and cut the weeds and eliminate the hazard.
so that would that be, Rachel, I'm trying to paraphrase and help out here for a better understanding. Would that be the fire department or would that be code enforcement or could it be both?
It could be both. I think it was pretty much, I've never seen it come to that. I've never seen it come to that in the 3 years I've been here. So the fire department has gained compliance through threats and letters and fines.
Mhm.
And that's worked, and that's the preference, because the right of entry onto private property, that whole deal
Right.
can be messy.
So Rachel, there are still homes now that have weeds.
Well, one in particular that I'm thinking of right now is I just noticed it the other day. I mean, it's been there forever, but after reading the agenda, the weeds, the dried up weeds are up to the windows of the house.
I pointed out a property that's vacant on 4th Street. I believe it's a small yellow house, and I brought that to the code enforcement officer's attention. That's one that we would take care of as a nuisance property.
Under the nuisance, but not under weed abatement.
Because it's cleanup in general. It's like, it's not just.
Got it. Right. So could
Well-
we have a conversation with the fire department? Either our folks here or the fire marshal to figure out where we go from here, and while they're driving around, if they can take note of.
Absolutely,
properties?
absolutely. And that would come through the chief and Charlie and be direction for our deputy chief here. So, and I started to have that conversation. I just didn't have enough time to invite to this meeting and so forth. So if David wants to provide some updated slides, I'm happy to meet with David and the fire marshal, and we'll bring something back at the next meeting if you like.
Cool. Rachel, can you get with Don and give him the address or addresses?
Yeah, and there's a few that happen to be on 4th Street, and I know that they have been mentioned at city council meetings before by somebody else. But anyway, yeah,
Yep.
I can let him know.
Okay, and then if Don, staff, somebody, you
Yeah, we can work with that.
can talk to the fire marshal. Thank you very much, Rachel. Norma, do
Okay.
we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask my question on the,
It
on the
pertains-
report?
it pertains to fireworks.
Yes, it's
Okay.
actually the day of the fire of 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find it. Okay, let's see. It's a report from Jose Sousa on the 4th of July. And he said that there was a block party at the Copperleaf. And I know that last year it was mentioned that Copperleaf was having a block party on the 4th of July. And I asked if there was a permit required to have that. And the answer was yes. And I just want to know if Copperleaf got a permit for the block party this time.
Not that I'm aware of, and the permit is required if they're going to close streets. And I would have to follow up directly with the officer to see if they were blocking traffic. But it is possible to have a block party. I don't know if they had like a volleyball net out there, things. I don't know the details on that, so I would have to look at it further. But yes,
okay.
to close the
What
streets, the
it's-
permits are required.
Well, what it says here is observe illegal fireworks from block party on Copperleaf and no contact was made due to myself not witnessing crime. So I know that last year in the report, it said that code enforcement had spoken to them. I'm sorry, they're not numbered. It's started shift 1800 and then ended 0400. Unit 010. Do you see that?
What time was it?
Yeah, I see a report from Unit 10.
It's 2000.
In 1930, they were in Copperleaf and there were no fireworks found. And then at 2140, there were no fireworks found in Copperleaf. What time did they find fireworks in Copperleaf? 2100?
2000.
Okay.
Oh, it's on the first page of 10, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1930 and 2000.
Oh, I see what it is. Okay, yeah, that should have come back. Well, I'm gonna have to look into it. I can't answer that question tonight.
Well, I mean, it seems like Copperleaf is kind of doing their own thing out there. And if they need permits, I mean, I'm all for community spirit and all, but if they need a permit, they should get a permit. I know that if anybody downtown would close up streets and have, or not close up streets, but have a block party, they would be called on. That's just a concern that I have of not how can I say, not it being publicly known that you need a permit for a block party. And the other thing, it's just I thought it was a cute comment from Junior Rangel at one of his rounds on the cemetery. He reported no occupants and no issue to report. I thought that was kind of cute.
That's
Putting a little bit
funny.
of humor in his report, but that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Date and time for next meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any public comments on proposed weed abatement program from Zoom public? Thank you. I can read
Yeah.
lips now.
Exactly. We don't have anyone in attendance at this time.
Thank you very much. Anybody from the chambers? Thank you very much. None here. Next, agenda items for the next agenda. Scott, do you have anything?
Not that I can think of right now.
Hold on if you do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, so it doesn't work. So.
Text on. Yeah. David, do you have anything for the next agenda?
No, thank you.
Rachel?
Will we officially be a standing committee? Do we make that official at our next meeting, or was that done today?
It will come before the council at the council's next meeting to either approve or not approve. It'll come
So I-
before the council and we'll know after the third Thursday, August 16th,
August 16th.
August 16th.
And on a quarterly basis, is that, so we could set a date tonight? If approved, we would meet 3 months from today.
Quarterly, right. So it'll come before the council on August 16th, where the ad hoc committee recommends a conversion to a standing committee with quarterly meetings.
So I think that should be on the agenda.
It will, and then we'll come back on September, the last Monday of September. We'll reconvene. Right? Is that right?
One of the
July?
things I would recommend is make sure that
October.
you,
Sorry, go
Chair,
ahead. Go
sorry.
ahead. Nope, go ahead.
Look at your code based on your standing committee's rules of appointment for chairs. If that says that it has to be done by calendar year, I suggest that your quarterly meeting starts in January and then quarterly from there, so that you can meet your code standard for your appointment of your officers. If it says if it doesn't say anything, great, you're free for all. If it has it, just do it based on that appointment of your officers.
And that happens.
Otherwise,
after
it can get
reorganization.
kind of confusing.
Yeah, it happens after reorganization, right? So the election November, reorganize in December, and then appointments in January.
Appointments in January, right? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So on the January, the last Monday in January, we'll look at appointing new officers. Until then, when's our next meeting? September, October,
October.
last Monday in October.
Do you have the date, Norma?
Yeah, I can pull that up. The last date in October is going to be, the last Monday is the 31st, because there's 5 Mondays that month. But if it's
Ooh,
the fourth
It's the fourth.
Monday, it's
fourth
the
Monday.
24th.
I swear, October 24th
Year's fine.
at 4 p.m. Next meeting. If anybody has any from the committee, if any committee members have any agenda items, please email Dawn.
Yes. We'll have the fire marshal at the next agenda, at the next meeting.
Cool, very cool. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Scott and Rachel. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Chair Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Maderos,
Yes, thank you all.
Co-Chair Ponce.
yes.
Motion passes unanimous, members present.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Norma. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.